How you doing? Thought I would talk about trust, like the woman climbing the ladder of success. I need people she can trust, supporters, etc. She needs people who trust her. But trust is a pretty hard thing, really, to come by. People don't trust themselves. That's because they don't know themselves. People don't trust others because, well, they don't know others either. They think they do. But there's always an element of doubt when it comes to trusting people. There's always an element of doubt when it comes to trusting ourselves. Always an element of doubt. So people claim they trust others. People have a role model. A person may have a role model. They trust in a role model. They even imitate the role model sometimes. But then they read in the paper one day that the role model has done something that's very humiliating. This happens, you see. The only person you can trust is yourself once you have developed knowledge of self. You can't even trust yourself if you don't have knowledge of self. You can't trust anyone unless you know them, really, know them. See? And know that they are trustworthy. But if you don't have knowledge of self, you're not going to have knowledge of anyone else. And if you don't have knowledge of self, you're not going to be able to trust yourself. Clear and simple. You're not going to trust something that you don't know. So what people have to do is develop trust within themselves. In other words, they must learn to trust themselves. This requires knowledge of self. You see? As with knowledge of self, a person, well, he can become causal. He can cause things to happen within himself. You see? And when he's able to do this, he can trust himself. At least he's getting there. You see? So he becomes causal. He can cause within himself environments to be established where he can call on aspects of energy that he will need in order to, let's say, keep a promise. People change their minds on promises quite often. Why? When he made the promise, he meant good. He meant well. But he breaks the promise. Well, for example, he had promised to go somewhere and meet somebody, but when that day came, he just didn't feel up to it. Well, you can create within yourself the environment or mood wherein you will feel like going to that meet or to take care of the business that you had promised to take care of. You become causal. You cause things to happen within yourself. You see? And when you're able to become causal within yourself, cause things to occur within yourself, then you're getting on, let's say, on the page of knowing yourself. You're beginning to know certain things about yourself, knowing what you can do within. And this is causality. There is something we call perfect existence. We can cause ourselves to be perfect existence, to exist perfectly within ourselves. And this perfect existence within will manifest in our behavior, the things that we do, like a cause and effect thing. So, what a person needs to do when they're climbing that ladder of success is to strive to become causal relative to their own self. You see? And to acquire this so-called perfect existence. You can cause perfect existence relative to a particular event. You see, because you have become causal. Okay. So if a person has to go and give an interview at a particular, for a job or something like that, if he's the person who has become causal for this event, okay, he can cause that perfect existence to exist in him for that event, the interview. Because he's causal. He can create within himself the environment, the mood, whatever is required for him to go and do well on that interview. Instead of languishing around saying, well, I'm sorry, I really don't feel like going. You create the situation within yourself where you will feel like going. Just like a person can create happiness within himself. He can create various moods within himself depending on the situation. He can alter his consciousness in order to deal with or to go through with the situation that he has committed himself to. We can do this without struggle. Just focus on it as a part of our, well, let's say, new personality. Because you got to get rid of the old one. That's for sure. That would be a great help. You see, and that's what needs to be done. That is a requirement, really. You know. So the woman who's climbing the ladder of success becomes, never, relative to never, perfect existence, relative to the ladder that she's climbing, the type of work that she's involved in or whatever, you know. So what about leaders, political leaders, for example? Can you trust them? Do they have knowledge of self? Well, if they don't, they can't trust themselves. You see? So would it be asking too much for a politician or a minister, etc., to go through we might call self-knowledge training so that they will know themselves and trust themselves We won't have to worry about authorities claiming that the person did this and that and they're seeking an indictment. We shouldn't have to listen to these things, hear these things. They shouldn't occur. You see. So, yeah, we should have leaders who have knowledge of self. You see. So that we can put trust in them. It would help. I'm telling you. So it would help tremendously. You know. We hear too much about corruption in general, not just the political leaders, but corruption in general that we are. It's distasteful, you know. And with some training relative to self-knowledge, it would be very, very helpful to them and the rest of us who depend on them for honest representation. We deserve it. Causality is important. It will give us balance in life. Something that we all need. And with this balance in life, well, we can achieve self-knowledge. They go hand in hand. A balance of life and self-knowledge. A balance opens many doors. A balanced life opens many doors, including good health and including longevity. Whether you go to heaven or not, at least you can have longevity and good health in this life, simply by living a balanced life. And it don't cost anything. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter. It's what happens within you is what counts. What you do, what you put your mind to. You see. Okay. Subscribe.